So this question says simplify fully a bracket to the power of 0. Well, what we've got to realise is, apart from the special case of 0 to the power of 0, anything to the power of 0 is always equal to 1. So we have a rule that says anything to the power of 0 is always 1. So it doesn't matter that this is in a bracket, it's to the power of 0. So 3e to the power of 0 is going to be equal to 1. The next part is asked to simplify fully this, and it's got 64x to the power of 6 over 25y squared, all to the power of negative a half. So let's deal with the indices rules first. So a to the power of negative n means 1 over a to the power of n, and a to the power of a half means the square root of a. So it looks like we're dealing with a reciprocal, 1 over something because of the negative power, and we're dealing with a half, which means we're dealing with the root of a. So we're dealing with the root of this. So the way I'd think about this then is I'd rewrite this combining these two facts. So we're going to have 1 over, so the reciprocal of this, so 1 over, and it's going to be the square root of 64 x to the power of 6 divided by 25y squared. So it's going to be 1 over, and we've got to realise that square rooting means I can square root each part separately, because the rules of thirds said I could treat this as the root of 64 times the root of this. Well, the root of 64 is 8. The root of x to the power of 6, well, remember what square root means. It means something times itself to give you what you had. So if I'm square rooting x to the power of 6, it's going to be x cubed. X cubed times x cubed is x to the power of 6. And that's all over, well, the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of y squared, well, what do I multiply by itself to give me y squared? Well, it's y, so that's going to be 5y. And then we have to realise that this is saying 1 divided by this fraction. Well, that means you're doing 1 times this reciprocated, so that's going to be 5y over 8x cubed, which gives me 5y over 8x cubed. So the answer here then will be 5y over 8x cubed. There are other ways of thinking about this. Because you've got a negative power, you could think of it as using the rule something to the power of something else. You multiply the powers. So we could have thought of this as 64x to the power of 6 times negative a half would make that negative 3. And that would be negative a half. And then it would have been 25 to the negative half, because 64 would have a power of 1 times that, and then it was 25 to the power of negative half, y and power to a power, raise those two, negative 1. So there's lots of ways of thinking about that, and then this would have been quite complicated in the sense of we're saying that this is 1 over the root of 64, which would have given us 8, and so forth. So a slightly more complicated way of doing it that way. I prefer to just break it down into what happens with the negative, do the reciprocal, what happens to the power of half. So we're dealing with these parts separately. Then we can see that it would look like this, and then break this down into how it works. The square root of this being each of those broken into individual square roots. So square root of that, square root of that, square root of that, square root of that. Then realising that 1 divided by a fraction becomes 1 times the reciprocal of the fraction on the bottom. Okay, the next part of the question goes on and says write this as a single fraction in its simplest form. So it's this classic idea of having a common denominator. So to create the common denominator, I can simply multiply the two denominators. So x times 3, x plus 3. But if I'm going to create that as the denominator for this one, then I must have multiplied the numerator by the same thing. So I multiplied this by x plus 3, so I must multiply the numerator by x plus 3. Take away, and because I multiplied this by x minus 3 to make this have the same common denominator, then I must multiply this by x minus 3 as well. So that's going to be 4 lots of x take away 3, and all over x take away 3, x plus 3. Again, it wants it in its simplest form. These are linear brackets, so rather than multiply these brackets out and create squared terms, I'll leave it as that because that will be its simplest form, unless something on top will cancel with it in a minute, but we'll see. So we multiply the brackets, so we've got 5x, 5 times 3 is 15. Got to be careful here because we've got to take away, and then what I would do is I'd put a square bracket there just to multiply this out, and then make sure then that we deal with the negative here properly. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Now see if this simplifies down. Well, we've got 5x's take away 4x's. We've got 15 take away 12. Well, what we've got to remember is 15 take away 12 is the same as getting bigger, so 15 add 12, so 27. So this is going to be x plus 27 over x take away 3, x plus 3. Again, we should really check, at the end of the exam quite often you've got a few minutes left, and therefore you should really check that this worked. So I'm going to try a value of 4 so that I don't end up with a negative on the bottom of this fraction. So I'm going to check, and I'm going to say it's 5 over 4 take away 3, take away 4 over 4 plus 3. Well, 4 take away 3 is 1, 5 divided by 1 is 5. 4 plus 3 is 7, so this is 5 take away 4 sevenths, which actually gives me 4 and 3 sevenths, which as a fraction, as a mixed number then, would be 28/31 over 7. So this gives me 31 over 7. If I then put x equals 4 into this, then I get 4 plus 27 over 4 take away 3 times 4 plus 3. Well, that equals 31. 4 plus 27 is 31. 4 take away 3 is 1. 4 plus 3 is 7. 1 times 7 is 7. So my check worked. I got 31 over 7 in both cases. So again, it's worth doing the check just in case you make a silly mistake with these things, these double negatives, and you miss those, because quite often people miss the fact that that is saying negative 4 times negative 3, which makes positive 12, and so forth. So the answer here then, nothing will cancel because there's nothing on the top which is the same as the bottom term to cancel through. So our final answer will be x plus 27 over x take away 3 times x plus 3. Okay, so a lot of algebraic manipulation at the higher level there, but with a bit of practice, guys, we can all get there.